Okay, today we're going to assemble the motor drive unit for the legs of the differential robot. And I'm hoping that what I do here stays in frame because I won't be able to see the viewfinder while I'm doing this. So, let's start with the two main differential gears. You print them sitting like this on the bed. They don't require any supports. They're both the same, so you don't have to worry about getting those confused. And then there's two leg axle pieces. You'll notice on the leg axle pieces that there's one end that's sort of domed in and one end that's flat. Obviously the end that's flat prints flat on the bed like that. And I went ahead and put the border around it to make sure they wouldn't break loose during printing. But these rounded ends are the ends that we're going to push into the gear. We don't want the rounded end left out here. And you'll notice that these gears also have slots in them. So you take the rounded end, and push it in until you can see that things are pretty much lined up. Now I'm going to be using two different types of screws in this part of the assembly. Right now I'm going to be using these 440, and they're 5/8 of an inch long, because that's what I had laying around. And they just happen to be button head Allen drive. Again, that's what I had. You don't have to use button head Allen drive and black and all that. In fact, if you didn't have screws at all, you could just glue these parts on. But if you leave them to where you screw it, then if you have to take everything apart to do adjustments or make changes, it's going to be a whole lot easier. So what I'm doing right now is screwing this in. Like so. And a little bit later I'm going to be using some glue to glue some parts on. Again, I'm going to be using the weld-on number 16. Got the other gear here. Got the dished round part. Let's push that in like so. Grab another screw. And the reason I'm prepping these two parts first is we have to glue a part onto the main frame, the gearbox frame, the differential frame, and the shafts make it easier to align that part properly. Okay, so this is the differential frame. You'll notice that one's larger than the other, and they can slide into each other like that. We don't need them together right now. They will print this way, and you'll make sure that everything's cleaned up so they can slide together. Now what we're going to be doing right now is these pieces here are supports for this axle, and they're going to be glued on there. We kind of want to get them centered as best we can when we glue them on. So one of the easiest ways to do that is just to cut a slip of paper to form a single wraparound like that. So when you take this piece assuming we had glue on this piece, then when you push it in and hold everything together, that should line up with that. So let's put some glue on there and hope for the best. Let's see what happens now that I've collapsed my piece of paper. Okay. Get that back on there. I've actually done it without the paper before, and everything turned out okay. But I was just thinking for the video, maybe it would make it easier. So, Put some of the old weld on number 16 there. Let's see if we can get the paper to start. If we can't, we'll abandon the paper idea. There we go. Slide it on down. We're going to do the same thing to this side, the other one. Put that there. I think I've got another piece of paper. Let's see if it's long. Yeah, I think that'll work. Let's just wedge that in there. Let's get some glue on it. There we go. You notice that this one on this side, because this outer one is a smaller diameter, lines up all the way, whereas this one on this side should have a bit of a lip, because this is the one that goes on the outside, so it's a larger diameter. Right? Okay. I guess we're going to have to assume that those are glued together. Hopefully they will be. We then have this center axle piece for the spider, and it can print flat on your bed because you notice it has two flat sides. And when you get done, just take some sandpaper or a file and smooth that down well, because these two pieces have to be able to freely rotate on this. Because they're going to fit together like that. And that flat side that we just saw on them is going to fit into these flat sides like that. So let's see if I can identify where those flats were. There we go. Turning the flat to face up so I can remember where that flat really is, where I can see it. So it's going to go together like that. We want, if this one's facing up, we want to try to keep the other side facing up about the same. There we go. Only reason that matters is because in the end we're going to glue a pointer on that on the front, and we want to make sure it stays in the optimum location. And like so. When you get everything lined up, we should be able to find two more screw holes, which again we're going to go in with the 440 screws that are roughly 5/8 of an inch long. Nothing critical about that. Just try and get them started enough to kind of hold things together. Hopefully those two little pieces of paper that I shoved in on those shafts will come out and didn't get glued in there. There we go. So somewhere along in this point we need to make sure that the gears and everything are moving freely and not binding. Because if they are, you kind of need to take things apart and do some sanding or cleaning or greasing or whatever it takes to make sure that things are moving freely. Sometimes just working it a lot will help free things up. Right now it feels like it's moving rather snugly. I would like it to be freer. And in fact I had tried these parts together before turning the camera on, and in fact had them moving more freely. But let's just let's just keep moving on here. See how things pull in. Yeah, I had it a lot freer, where basically you let go and it would drop and move. So I think in reality what I would do is I would probably take these apart, rotate the gears into another position until things really felt like they were moving freely, because that's snugger than I want. I'm not going to do that right now in this video. I'm just telling you, pull the two screws, separate the halves, try rotating these outside ones a little bit, put it all back together until you find a sweet spot where everything really moves easy. I'll take things apart off camera and do that, because it could end up being time consuming. You just end up seeing the same thing over and over again. Okay, so now what we've got is the motor mount, which is this piece, and we're going to be using a 190. I like these because they have the metal gears in them and the speed is good. And we're going to hold that on with two 632 by 3/8 long screws. Again, the length isn't even critical. You could use 1/4 inch long or you could use 1/2 inch long. Doesn't really matter. This is what I had. Let's take that. I screw this on here. Now I had already taken the cam right here and started it, and it was a snug fit, so I actually took it out to the vise in the shop and put the vise here and here and just cranked the vise in until it collapsed it. If you had really large pliers, you could do the same. I don't know how good it did to put it on a flat surface and tap with a hammer. You might end up screwing something up inside. So that's how I did that. But the whole point of what we're doing here, besides holding that motor in place, is this motor, this ring, is going to glue onto here. And the idea is that when you're looking at it like this, it isn't going to be, you don't want it touching. There should be just a little bit. See how that gap's even? That's kind of how we want it when it's glued. Okay? And this is going on the side without the lip, which is the robot's right side. The robot's left side has this lip. So this goes over here. As you can see, we are free to put glue all around this part. I'll still be able to take this whole lower section apart, even with this glued on, to free up those gears. Like I said earlier, off camera. Okay, let's try to eyeball this. I think I'm pretty close. I'm going to kind of hold that for a little bit here till the glue can set up. Like I say, this can still be stripped apart. You can still pull these two screws here, still slide this whole piece off. That'll drop the whole center piece out. So you can, at this point, I can still tear everything down to work on that. So we could test at this point. I know it's not going to move easy, but we could test it. I'm going to get a couple of alligator clips. Just so I'm not trying to hold so many things. Let's clip on here. Like so. Got a battery pack sitting over here. I don't know if that's on camera or off camera. Polarity doesn't matter. It'll walk with it wired up either way. Okay, so here's what we got going. You can see the gears are moving, which means you can see that the axles are moving back and forth. And I'm going to try to stop it close to dead center, like there. So far so good. I mean, even with these being snug like they were, the motor's not having any trouble driving that. Okay, then there's part of the front display part. This will glue on, and if I just glue it here and here, I'll still be able to separate everything. If I actually put the glue along those seams to make everything strong and all one, at that point I won't be able to separate the lower half anymore. So I'm not going to glue that on yet, because I know I can get those gears to mesh better down below. But I just wanted you to see where that part's going to go, where it would go. Okay, there's two parts here which are going to have to do with the leg linkage coming up, and the shorter of the two, you see how this one is longer and this one is shorter? The shorter of the two goes on the right hand side, like so, and basically you want to bring it up to it looks like it's just even with that. So any of the inside parts of this are okay to put glue on. Like here's okay, here's okay, and there's okay. There we go. When the legs screw on, there's a rear linkage piece that'll come up and screw in there. And that's what this whole piece here is all about. Now the same thing happens on the other side. We've got a piece here that comes in. I'm going to take this out of the way since you understand where that glues and what its main point is. This one's going to glue on there, and again, line up with everything here. So let's just put some glue in here, there. Just like that. We should still be able to put this part on later. Should still fit, see? It isn't going to interfere with any of that. Now there are a couple of cosmetic parts, like these little gear parts, which can be glued on, I believe like that. Let me look at my together one. Yeah. These don't have any function other than cosmetic. Just to look like there's a gear up in the hip. Like so. And just tack it in there. It should not stick up higher than this piece. It should be below it, because you don't want the leg rubbing on that at a later date. Now let's see, would that interfere with this piece? Yes. I won't glue this one on yet, just like I'm not gluing this piece on yet, because like I said, I plan on taking this apart one more time, pulling it apart. I'm just going to rotate the gears to a new place, because like I said earlier, I'd snapped everything together and it was much freer feeling, and I liked that. So I'm going to readjust that off camera until that gets to feeling real nice and free, just so you understand how all that stuff goes. The idea behind the legs, well, this is the back, and so this leg would go over here and onto that axle like that. You take another 632 by whatever you got laying around, 3/8, ½ inch, whatever you want, and you screw it in there, and when you cinch it down, that's what's going to lock it in place. We don't want to glue the leg onto that axle, and we don't want to cinch it in place yet. And then as you can see here, we would take another one of those 440 by 5/8 long. It's going to go right through there and screw right into there. And we do the same thing on both sides. Yeah, maybe I'll give that a couple of turns. I'm not really ready to screw this thing together, but it could be helpful for you guys that are trying to build this if you kind of saw this all coming together. Okay, I'm going to leave that screw sticking out quite a bit because I'm just going to be taking it off camera. And let's take this one like so. Now I plan on running the robot on 3 AA batteries, so 4.5 volts. A little battery pack that I have just sitting here on this tabletop is just 3 volts, so it's not going to be walking as fast as the one in the demo just because I'm not giving it the same voltage yet. Haven't got the battery pack yet. Had to order some more. Having a little trouble starting this one. Of course, a person can always use a tap and a drill, or an Allen with a handle is easier. There we go. So let's just pretend that those were screwed in place. So you can see now that without the screws in there, a person could move the body forward or back or to adjust for tip and tilt. I had this set pretty much in the center, so I know that both legs should be lined up about the same. And let's just see what happens when we give it 3 volts right now. I don't know what the camera is doing with something this tall in the picture, but let me take a view. Okay, walking good. So there you have it.